Greetings. Welcome to ITR Live. I'm your host, Chris Hagan, and welcome back to another action-packed, fun-filled episode of Iowa's most stylishly dressed conservative podcast. We are here in studio today with Chris Ingstead, John Hendrickson, and we are all dressed up today. Gentlemen, what's going on?
I've got a chauffeur John around to his high-profile events.
John, where are you going today?
I was invited to the governor's bill signing today for the state reorganization bill.
Outstanding. My invitation was lost in the mail, so congratulations on that. So make sure you get a pin.
Yes, I hope so. Yeah.
So the bill signings are fun. So I'll be, and I don't think you've been to one, have you?
No, I have not. This will be a new experience. So.
Well, you know, John, you championed the cause of government reorganization and agency consolidation. I mean, it's broadly call that regulatory reform, but you really wrote about the merits of that type of idea, and a number of papers across the state picked it up. So I think it's awesome that that the governor's office has noticed and invited you to come down.
Well, it's a great reform, and it fits well with the fiscal conservatism and responsible budgeting, and so it's I think it's a step in the right direction. Yep,
but it also means a coat and tie for me today. So I'll be all ready by the time we walk in.
Okay.
Good. Well, I already made my trip to the Capitol today. I got to speak at a public hearing on asset verification tests for SNAP benefits, and that was I was outnumbered, but I thought it went pretty well. My 2 minutes on my triumphant return back to the Supreme Court chamber to stand behind the microphone and impress and thrill the audience with my knowledge of health and human service benefits. So,
Chris, would it be fair to summarize that bill or that for the folks who no longer qualify for some of those benefits, they don't get to keep drawing on them?
Yes, I think that's exactly what it is.
And did folks scream bloody murder?
Yes, because we are going to actually make an additional effort to make sure that only the people that qualify for the benefits get them.
You know, when I used to work on this issue a long time ago, when I lobbied, when other states had done a deeper dive, they found people who had won the lottery, who were still drawing it, people who were now employed, who were still drawing it, people who were drawing it from their state and the neighboring state. So, you know, I think it's wholly appropriate that we take a look and make sure that folks who are receiving benefits still actually qualify for them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I made the point, at Iowans for Tax Relief, we hold ourselves out as being the voice of the taxpayer. And often at the Capitol, decisions are made with a lot of different voices in mind. Many of them are the voices that consume tax dollars. And I just tried to very simply set forth that the taxpayers who write the checks to pay the bills that pay for these benefits would like to know that the benefits are going to those who need them, and that the stewardship of those dollars, and that we appreciate that the legislature is making an effort to provide better stewardship of those dollars as they go out the door.
Yep.
I think that's, and even apart from whatever conversation we may have after that on appropriate levels of taxation, can we at least make sure that only the people that need these benefits are getting them?
Can we at least follow the rules?
Right. So good. So we're all dressed up.
Well, maybe you and Victoria will be able to get that across the finish line, whereas I never will.
All I'm good for is putting me behind a microphone and seeing what I can do. The hard work will be up to somebody else. So anyway,
by the way, speaking of hard work, is this the time for the construction update?
Yes,
because I hear the Bobcats beeping again.
So the beeping is ongoing, and it appears that they have decided to tear out half of the project and start again. So there is a retaining wall that was either very poorly constructed the first time or has been torn apart because it's all over the place right now. So the beeping is going on. I have that to look forward to this afternoon in my office because my office is right outside of this.
You're even closer.
Yeah. No, if you think you can hear it now, you come on over and try and get some work done here in my office this afternoon. It's going to be a good time. So we'll keep you posted on that, but they are definitely hard at work. Multiple skid loaders and people lugging around giant concrete blocks, and looks like fun. All right. John, before you go up to the Capitol for the bill signing, what do you had a piece that you wanted to talk about today?
Yeah, and we were going to talk more about our favorite issue of property taxes and of course assessments are out.
Did you get your assessment, John?
I did. I got it yesterday. So, but I wanted to highlight just, and we've written quite a bit about one possible solution for property taxes, and I would argue that there's really two fundamental ones. One is a spending limit. The other one is what we'd call truth-in-taxation. I just wanted to highlight some recent developments that were just made, that were just published this morning by our colleagues in Kansas. And Kansas has adopted a very strong truth-in-taxation law, and so I just want to highlight a few examples because I think it's really good news. And so since truth-in-taxation has been enacted, over half of all local governments in Kansas, and that includes cities, counties, school districts, as well as smaller entities, have voted either to leave taxes at the same rate or not to raise them at all. And just to give you a couple really pretty aggressive examples, especially, and these are school districts. And as we know, school districts in Iowa are pretty much the driver of property tax bills. But one Baldwin City School Board wanted to raise property taxes by close to 18%. And because of truth-in-taxation, which requires an extensive direct notification and public hearing process, taxpayers showed up at the board meeting and basically talked about how, one, forced the board to justify the increase, but also taxpayers related their personal stories about how they're struggling with their budgets because of inflation. The result is the school board decided not to do an 18% tax increase. Another school district in Leavenworth was considering a close to a 9% increase. And again, people showed up and voiced their concern, and the board decided not to go forward. So there's been some good movement going on with truth-in-taxation in Utah and in Kansas.
There's been some good work going on in Iowa by taxpayers who are sick of it. And I'd like to talk about a hearing that took place today that highlights the need for both some local budget controls and truth in taxation. But I don't want to take away.
Well,
no, that's all I had.
There's one piece in there that I like, and we've talked about this before, John, where these folks go to a budget hearing, and in this article, at least what you said, John, is they go and they say, my budget can't handle this, or my budget is strained. And we've encouraged folks, you don't need to go to a city council meeting and try and argue every line item in their budget with them, or tax rates or millage rates or whatever. They know more than you do about that. But if you go in and say, I have to pay the bill, and this is hard, you're asking me to pay 18% more. That's a lot. And it's simply, you're always, and this is something that I've done politically, you are always on very safe ground when you talk about your own experience and what you know. Mm-hmm. If stay with that, because it's so much harder to argue against someone's own lived experience and the knowledge that they have. I think that's a good lesson for those that want to go talk to their city council, is that, hey, I'm tapped out and you guys keep spending. So anyway, that's good. I wanted to make sure that I pointed out, because I think that's great. Chris, you've got something to add to that I want to get to as well.
Yeah, look, there was a max levy notice. So sort of the first step in officially setting the budget in a county in southwest Iowa today. And the supervisors there told folks, we're going to increase our spending by 9%. 9%. There was a young mom there. She brought 2 kids along, and she basically said, my taxes are too high. You guys need to find ways to lower them. In their response as well, they're going up 9%. So there's your. By the way, this room was full, overflow crowd. The deputies who were there to sort of oversee or keep the peace couldn't even elbow their way in. So right there's a county who thinks 9% is completely appropriate, and despite the citizens talking about we think this is too high. In fact, one of the folks who spoke up said, "Well, you could lower that, max levy if you want, so you collect less." And they said, "Well, we're not." So okay, so they've got a room full of people. They don't want to listen to them. They want to raise their spending by 9%. But the other part is when somebody said, "Okay, well, what's this going to mean to me?" They said, and I'll give them some cover here, they said, well, we really don't know what it's going to do to your tax bill. And I think that's true, right? Because there's some other calculations that go into it. I would say if everything else were equal, if their spending's going up, your tax bill is going to go up the same. But how that relates to each individual property owner is going to depend on a few different factors. Again, highlighting the need for some level of truth in taxation, some level of clarity, so folks understand what their local elected officials are signing them up for. So John, you bring up sort of the theoretical or the stuff outside our borders, and I mean, it was needed within this state this morning. So we've got to fix this.
I can add though that there's a lot that's being reported in the media about what is alive, what's still possible on property tax reform this year in the legislative session. And I don't know that anyone knows. I'm not sure that the key players even know. In fact, I'm quite sure they don't exactly know what's going to end up happening. But one of the pieces that it seems is still alive and is still subject to discussion is the idea inside of truth and taxation of recalculating the levy rate when assessed values go up. And it seems like a small thing, but I've thought about that right now as everyone is so upset about assessments going out right now.
When do we need the assessment primer?
Well, we've done that. We had a whole property tax primer when Sarah was here once, but we live this stuff and we still have to stop and step back and think about the timeline and when it plays out. But the fundamental thing here is that the assessed value of your home is only one of multiple factors that determine what your bill will be. And so people are and to folks' credit, they understand that an increased assessed value likely leads to a larger tax bill.
Painful experience tells them that is the case.
Right. And we believe, those of us at the table here, that the assessed value of your home should reflect its fair market value. Now, in some cases it doesn't, because now the market has cooled off but I
think we can all acknowledge real estate prices have really shot up in the past few years. So it's natural that assessments should fall.
But the assessed value is only one step in the calculation of what you owe. And we can go through that. And if you want to go through the process, we can, but you have the assessed value, which will be for a future property tax determination.
Yeah, just to be clear, folks, the assessment we all received in the last week or two does not come into play until that you cut your property tax check in September of 24. So the budgets and the budget hearings that are going on right now have nothing to do with the assessment that showed up in your mailbox. That's just coincidentally bad timing.
Yeah, that's right. And we talked a lot about rollback around here. That would have to be calculated into the future because remember, rollback is determining what your assessed value is. Now, the rollback determines what the taxable value of your property is. Now,
frankly, rollback's a decent, we can talk about this sort of thing, but it is a decent taxpayer protection that typically mutes or at least mitigates those increasing assessments.
Right. Because of rollback, you're only paying tax on, I think it's we're somewhere around 55% of that assessed value. Okay. Then you have to multiply it by whatever your local government sets as the levy rate, and then you get what you owe. So I wanted to go through that again because the net of all that, again, goes back to if you're going to talk to your local government, you don't need to tell them that you've analyzed assessments. Mm-hmm. You don't need to tell them that you understand the rollback percentage and you can calculate that out to the 1,000th decimal point. And you don't even really care what they said as their levy rate. What you care about is your tax bill. And that tax bill is a function, whatever goes into that formula, your tax bill is a function of one thing only. It's a function of how much they spend.
Yes. Your tax bill is because of their spending.
Correct. It's not because of the assessor. And it's not because the state legislature did something to fix the rollback percentage before. It's not because of the X, Y, or Z. It is because how much they spend. Full stop. So if you are frustrated, remember how you feel right now about that assessed value and carry that forward and remember it. The next time a local government comes and wants you to celebrate that they left the levy rate unchanged. So right now, there's really nothing you can do about it. You can protest. And if you think it's wrong, you probably should. But absent that, there's really not much you can do about it. But you need to remember how you feel for when the time comes around that you can do something about it. And that is in city council elections, county supervisor elections. It is in the budget hearings next year and the year after that. And the max levy, you have to stay. If you're mad, that's where you need to channel that energy.
By the way, if you're mad about property taxes, you should be furious that some cities want to supercharge your sales tax with these entertainment districts. And you should be equally furious that there's plenty of state legislators who want to make it possible for them to do that. So we don't like property taxes. Nobody likes property taxes. We understand, though, they're necessary, and we just want to keep them under control.
Yep.
You should not be creating new revenue streams to pull even more money from folks.
Cities have plenty of money, especially, look, most of these entertainment districts are going to be in fairly high growth suburban communities. Maybe not always, but more or less.
They might sit on top of an area that's already grown.
Yeah. Well, usually what they sit on top of is somebody's private development land that they're trying to cash in on, but that's neither here nor there. Well, actually,
that's kind of specifically
actually,
there.
It does kind of matter. But those kinds of communities, they got lots of money.
Yep.
They don't need another source of funds. They can already, they shouldn't, but they can already go bond off of any number of different revenue streams. But they need another one because that's what this is about, is going to finding a new source of money to borrow against.
Yep.
You know, so just more debt, more taxes. It's the wrong direction to go. We talked about this last time. Iowa already has a very high collective tax burden. We need to be focused on lowering that, not increasing it.
Spending, right, John?
That's right.
Yep. You're the one who taught me taxes and spending are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, very good. Gentlemen, anything else on your mind? I know you've got a trip to the Capitol to take, so I don't want y'all to be late for that. But
yeah, Victoria's waiting for us, so we don't want to upset her plans.
Yes, no. We don't do that. So okay, well, I think there's a lot of good information there today, and we squeezed it in at a time when they weren't doing quite as much beeping out there in the skid loader. So job well done, gentlemen. Appreciate it. All right. With that, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you taking the time and spending it with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends. And with that, we will see you next time on ITR Live.